watching Daybreak, now time to look at what the papers are saying. On the front pages, we have Dr. Constance, Second Advent.
Second Advent, indeed. Thank you. Well, let's look at the papers this morning with Dr. Austin Maho. He's a lecturer at the International Institute of Journalism in Abuja. Glad to have you, Dr. Maho.
Nice to be here. Good morning.
Morning to you.
Well, hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day newspaper. Obaigona calls for whole-of-government approach to solving national security challenges. Wala Edu, economic recovery imminent. ExxonMobil unveils 10 billion Deepwater investment plan in Lagos. Shettima Ecstatic. And Bobrisky, FG suspends senior prison officers. Well, let's look at Bobrisky's case. Real name Idris Okuneya. He was alleged not to have served his prison term. Instead, he was housed outside an apartment, outside the facility after his godfather intervened. This case is very embarrassing for the government. The story has been trending, but at least the hammer has fallen on the officials involved, Dr. Maho.
Yeah, the hammer has fallen. In fact, this case I see it as a test case, a wake-up call on, before now we've been hearing so many unconfirmed, let me say, rumors about the fact that when people are convicted and sentenced to prison terms, many of them actually do not, end up in prisons. Some of them serve their sentences outside prison facilities, which is an abnormality. The rumor has always been there, and I feel that this is a wake-up call. This will put the correctional services under the spotlight. And since they have taken this initial action to say, look, let's investigate, let's find out if the allegation made by a social media influencer by the name of Very Dark Man, if it is true, the audio recording, if it's a reflection of the truth or mere allegation, I think is the way to go to be able to put this matter to rest. Because the social media, since the revelation came on board, has been awash, has been agog. People are making different statements and speculation as about what really happened, what is going to happen now, how will the case be dealt with. So Nigerians are waiting. And I feel that the correctional services have done the right thing by taking action against suspected officers who may have committed one infraction or the other in relation to this case. They were suspended. Let them stand aside while investigation is carried out. And anyone found culpable should be called to book. And I equally feel that another major agency that was mentioned in that same audio message is the EFCC. EFCC should take a cue from this and equally conduct an investigation into his own officers. We know those that arrested Bobrisky. We know those that investigated him. The EFCC should equally take action against those people by not just coming on air to say, look, we're investigating the matter. We want to see concrete action along the line of what the correctional services have done. The FCC should take a clue and equally show to the public, let it be seen. Let people see that something concrete is being done in order to bring this whole issue to a rest.
Okay, indeed, there's another angle to this also. We have prisons that are overcrowded. It's part of the problem in the correctional services. Now we have a new Chief Justice of the Federation, Justice Kudirat Kekereeko. It's an area that she needs to pay attention, because if you decongest the prisons, if you have dispensation of justice that is very speedy and swift, then you don't have a clog up in our prisons.
Very key. I think it's supposed to be 48 hours and you must be put on trial. And there are so many people languishing in jail who have not been put on trial. I think Falana was at a point in time about the End Bad Governance movement. It's either you take them to trial or you let them go. But on this question of Martin's Otse saying that there was an audio, by, I don't know whether to call him they call him Mr. Okuneya.
Idris Okuneya.
So I don't know which is
Bobrisky, that's his name.
Oh, that is an acronym.
Yes.
That's AKA.
That's what is known by. Yes.
All right. So it's good. Suspend them. EFCC too have started an investigation. Like Maho said, I do not know whether they should follow the line of the correctional center. And then the question of these people are sent into prisons to correct them. But are they being corrected? That's another huge question to ask.
Okay, let's look at Daily Trust. Flood displaces 82 communities in Niger. FG suspends prisons officers after Bobrisky allegations. That's another focus on that. Hardship, Tinubu orders low-key 64th independence anniversary. Jonathan counters Emir Sanusi, says Nigeria did not lose $49.8 billion under his watch. And hardship, Tinubu orders low-key 64th independence celebration. Let's look at that. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. George Akume, announced this. He said the program of events will be, very low-key. He says Nigeria needs to stay united in the midst of our diversity. The statement by the SGF is simply a statement. Yes, there's need to be united, but are we doing the work in order to enhance or foster that cooperation and collaboration amongst people, Dr. Maho?
Yeah, certainly. The statement by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, it strikes the right chord. Like you said, what does it amount to, to the average citizen? We've been talking about cost of governance, and of course, you equally strike the right chords when you say in celebrating the 64th independent anniversary, it should be low-key. There should be no fanfare. We shouldn't seem as if we are holding celebration party when the entire country is engulfed in a lot of what I'll call hunger and hardship. So it strikes the right chord. But I equally believe that government should do more. Government should do more in terms of what resonates with the people, in terms of lifting the vast majority of Nigerians who have been plunged into poverty as a result of government policies, government actions and inaction. So it's the responsibility of government to go beyond rhetoric, beyond talking. We are not campaigning for anything. The government is in power. It is holding power. It should be able to apply that power to bring about concrete solution that the citizens of the country are confronted with and grappling with on a daily basis. If you go around the streets of Abuja today, as I was coming to the studio, but many of us would have witnessed, in spite of the fact that we have to pay so much for the pump prices of fuel, there are long queues. And to me, it's double jeopardy. I see no reason why I should be paying, for instance, 1,100 for a liter of fuel, and yet I can't get it to buy. These are real problems that, the government should focus on. And this perennial problem over whether there's subsidy or there's no subsidy, government should, find a way of addressing it once and for all, so that Nigeria as a country, we as citizens should be very sure of where we are going to. We cannot be celebrating 16 years of independence and we are still talking about subsidy, we are still queuing for fuel, as if, I don't want to use very strong words this morning, but it is what it is. As a country, we need to get serious.
Let's stay on Daily Trust. There's another story there. 50 million Almajiri out-of-school children roam in Nigeria's streets, according to the federal government. This was revealed by Dr. Mohammed Idris, the Executive Secretary of the National Commission for Almajiris and Out-of-School Children's Education, NCAOOSE. I never even knew there was an organization such as that. First of all, we have commissions, institutions for a lot of different things in this country, but what do they actually do? Yesterday we were discussing about the Southwest Development Commission, Northeast Development Commission, Southeast Development Commission. Everybody wants to have a commission, but what do these institutions do? How effective are they, especially with regard to these out-of-school children and Almajiris, Dr. Maho?
Yeah, so it is sad. I'm happy that it's coming from, the criticism, the fact. The last report I look at, which was from the UN, says Nigeria has about 18 million out-of-school children. And I've always felt that it's actually a tip of the iceberg, because if you look at the problem, it's larger than that. I will equally believe that this figure is closer to the real situation. And as a country, I've always said this. When you sow the wind, expect to reap the whirlwind. What happens if you sow the whirlwind? What are you going to reap? The problem of insecurity we are confronting today as a nation is as a result of failure of government in the past, 10, 20, 30 years ago, by refusing to ensure that the vast majority of youth across the country, especially, of course, in the northeast and northwestern part of the country. And the consequence of that is the insecurity and insurgency, Boko Haram, that has become pervasive in the northeast and northwestern part of the country. We are suffering the consequences of what we failed, actions we failed to carry out yesterday. And if we refuse as a country to deal with this humongous number of out-of-school children today, what do you think the consequences will be in another 5, 10 years' time? So it's left for us. A country that refuses to plan, plans to fail. We need to plan for our youth. Our youthful population should not be an albatross to us as a country, but it should be an asset. But what we have is that youthful population that is supposed to stimulate growth, that is supposed to propel us into the modern era, has become an albatross that is pulling us back as a country.
And Nkechi, this Dr. Idris, he did say that it's no longer acceptable for people to have children and throw them into the streets for begging. And he says this is not about accession of a country, it is about Nigeria. Do you agree with him?
I mean, somewhat, and I think this story on the front page of Daily Trust is very important. 50 million out-of-school children that are not in the class, on the streets, vulnerable, exposed to all sorts of exploitation, crime, and God knows what. Now, he says the government is looking to integrate these children into a modern education system under sort of a new framework. Sounds promising, but I think we've been here before. Jonathan's administration, they built integrated Almajiri schools across the country. Today, those schools are just abandoned, sort of forgotten, underfunded, and whatnot. So what's going to be different this time? I think Dr. Idris was talking about 60% of these out-of-school children to be integrated into a Sangaya education system before the end of this administration. In essence, I think this is just not a reformation when it comes to Almajiri schools. It has to do with our whole education sector. And like Dr. Maho said, it's a spiraling effect when you leave kids on the streets, open to exploitation, open to crime, open to whatever else that they can be exposed to when they're not in the classrooms. It's very important that Daily Trust is focusing on this story, and hopefully it doesn't just become what happened in Jonathan's time when they made some strides and it just was left abandoned and just not taken care of.
But also the states have a role to play here. States are responsible for primary and secondary education. If they're not paying attention to this, I wonder who else will have to
and I think
do that.
Abia State now has declared free education for primary and secondary school.
Absolutely. Even in Anambra too, for public schools, government-owned schools, it's free.
In one phrase, a ticking time bomb.
Right.
That's what this is.
Okay, let's look at Punch newspaper. Why my government suspended Sanusi, according to Jonathan. The former president, Goodluck Jonathan, said the emir of Kano, Sanusi II, who was central bank governor at the time, cooked up allegation that $49.8 billion was missing. At the time Sanusi said this, there were discrepancies in oil revenue remittances. After investigations, the figure was reduced to 20 billion by the finance ministry and later to 12 billion. Jonathan said such money was not missing, that it was impossible when our budget was about $32 billion. Sanusi was suspended and not sacked, he said, and PricewaterhouseCoopers, who investigated the matter, said no amount of such a magnitude was stolen. But NNPC also could not account for $1.48 billion at the time. So NNPC again, unaccounted monies, Dr. Mahu.
Unaccounted money and NNPC, they are like Siamese twins, aren't they? You can't separate them. But the point of the matter is the fact that history will always vindicate the just. And what I see here is a vindication of Jonathan's explanation, at the heat of that argument. And it turned out that most of the statements made by Sanusi against former President Jonathan when he was in power were all political. And it has been proven. And that's why I say history vindicates the just. Before, even if I remember, my memory served me well, I was in the newsroom then, Sanusi was not consistent. It was never consistent. The figures were always changing. He started with 45 billion, then I think they dropped until it became about 12 billion. He gave 3 different figures at 3 different points in time. So which means that even he himself that was making the allegations then was not sure of his figure. But happily, I am happy for former President Goodluck Jonathan that at least he's around, he's still alive, to be able to look at those who were his traducers while he was in power to say, look, here I am today, where are you today? Those of you said that I was clueless, and you have clue on how to move the nation forward. How well have you moved the nation forward? And we are living witnesses to the fact that since 2015, when Jonathan left power, the nation has been on a downward slide. Things has never been the same. Many people are even asking for we should not be talking about moving forward. In fact, that we should do a reverse back to where the nation was in 2015. It is what it is. History vindicates the just. And I think consistently, in the last 9 years, former President Goodluck Jonathan has been vindicated.
Right, let's look at the international headlines. Citizen newspaper from South Africa, GNU's 100 days of ups, downs. The 100 days of the government of national unity in South Africa is a mixed bag, according to analysts. ANC not used to going, it's used to going it alone, but has had to cobble this together. Analysts call it demonopolization of power. It's not been an easy road for the ANC.
Well, some detractors, what they call detractors, have described the GNU as a sellout pact only meant to serve the interests of business at the expense of the poor. But the president, his sentiments is that GNU is the best thing that the country now have.
But it doesn't have a choice. To
move the country forward. Yes, it didn't have a choice, but to do what it did, 10 political parties aligning. But then, if he's not moving forward at the speed he's expected to move forward, or if he's not working out the way some people think he's not working out, then you probably attribute that to the fact that different bedfellows are coming together who have different ideologies, and so there'll be friction here and there. But it may then again be too early to begin to give kudos to the GNU or to say they are moving forward. So we'll watch and see what plays out with the GNU. Indeed, watch and see. Let's look at the Times. No one should go to the UK, claims Musk after summit snub. Well, the war of words between the UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and
The owner of X, Elon Musk, has just heated up after Musk was denied an invitation to a business summit in the UK. Musk hit back at the UK by insinuating it's a terrible country anyway for releasing convicted pedophiles in order to imprison people for social media posts. I mean, this is, of course, in reference to the UK releasing inmates in order to free up overcrowded prisons. Nkechi, these two need to sit down and talk, don't they? Briefly.
Elon Musk, he's not one to shy away from controversy, and he always speaks up. And so this is not surprising that he's lambasting the UK for what he's calling a release of convicted pedophiles while jailing people for social media posts. And his criticism is, I think it seems less about that summit and more about the country's direction, or where the Prime Minister Shettima is moving the country along. He said it's a two-tier care. But I don't think it's surprising coming from Elon Musk, because I think last year he was a very important figure when it comes to that summit in the UK, and not to attend it this time, it's not surprising that he will go this way in lambasting Prime Minister Shettima.
Well, finally, we'll look at the Washington Post. Zelensky, amid urgent appeal to President Biden, confronts U.S. partisan split. The Ukrainian president is asking for permission to use or to fire missiles deep into Russia, and Russia is threatening that it might use nuclear weapons on Ukraine if that happens. So you have that conflict ratcheting up between the two countries, and it's interesting that we are at the United Nations General Assembly meeting this week discussing world peace, climate change, and all those important issues. Well, that's the much that we can take this morning.
People must take what Elon Musk says with a pinch, a huge pinch of salt. He sounds like Donald Trump in most cases, sending across narratives that are blatantly false and then doubling down on them. But that's the much you can take from newspaper review on Daybreak. Thank you so much, Constance, and thank you, Austin Maho. Austin, am I right?
Yes.
Austin Maho, for being there. I am Ndi Amogo, thanking you for watching. The morning show is next.
Well, up next is the morning show. Good morning, I'm Kitchen Nana.